Hey, everybody. Welcome to Called Up the Prospects podcast. I'm Chris Peters, joined as always by Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects. We are here to talk hockey as we are in the month of September, and that means that hockey is right around the corner. We've got rookie tournaments, we've got junior hockey, we've got it all. Cam, I mean, this is it. We're finally here. The offseason doesn't last real long in the prospect world, but now we're back and we can kind of get back into our regular routine, can't we?
Yeah, we can. Camps are happening, cuts are happening. Everybody's coming back from the cottages. Summer's over. It's we can get rolling. We might have to manufacture a couple things, some topics to get, stay relevant, stay interesting. But the it's here. It's right around the corner now. We're talking weeks instead of months.
Yeah, which we love to do. And I think, we're also talking the NHL saying, hey, we might start the season in early September or late September now, as opposed to this October start date. And unfortunately, that'll mean the hashtag is it October yet will have to go away. Is it September yet? I think you can just as easily say that. But there's a lot of exciting things coming up, and one of the things we're going to talk about today, we're talking about a lot of different things. There's some news in the prospect world, but more also wanting to kind of take a look at some of the guys that were rookies last year in the NHL, and now they're transitioning, and we send them off on their way. They've gone through their rookie as prospect writers. We let them go be their NHL selves for the rest of time, and while we still are going to track them very closely, obviously won't be paying as much attention to them. So we're going to talk a little bit about kind of those sophomore players that are coming into the NHL this season, guys that no longer are Calder eligible, and talk a little bit about what their next steps are. Also, some news on the AHL, CHL age limit kind of situation with the NHL. We're going to talk a little bit about that in the positives, the negatives for all parties, and then our regular segments, including a new called up challenge, a little different today that we're going to give it a try, and hopefully you guys will enjoy playing along at home. But Cam, let's start off talking a little bit about these sophomores. And so, of course, the rookie class last year highlighted by Lane Hutson, Mlin Celibrini, Matvei Michkov as your finalists for the Calder Trophy. And then you also have just this tremendous group of players that really showed up kind of more towards the end of the season, guys that got some big contracts over the offseason as well. Let's start at the top, though, and let's start with Lane
Mhm.
Hutson. Historic rookie season. Will he be a sophomore sensation, or could he fall victim to the sophomore slump?
He could absolutely fall victim to the sophomore slump, many a great man has fallen victim to that slump. And not everybody has a $9 million defenseman who is just traded for slide into the lineup too. Someone who has traditionally been a top power play quarterback. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I think the season ahead, yes, teams will be better prepared to handle what Lane can do, and that's just part for the course when it's your second year in the league. But also now he has someone right there, right? Do they go in to give Dobson the first power play out the gate? Do they give it to Lane, but he has someone breathing down his neck? And so do they do a split at the end of the day? Are they each seeing, 2 minutes of power play time rather than one seeing 3.5? So I think deployment's going to play a huge role. Personally, I think you give the kid, you maximize their skill set, and you put Lane on the top power play. And this has nothing to do with him being on my fantasy hockey squad, maybe a little bit. And then you let Noah be the kind of the more two-way guy, and he can run your second unit, and he can maybe play some heavier minutes at 5-on-5. But yeah, he could definitely fall victim to it. But I'm gonna say sensation. I'm gonna say that he breaks the mold, and that doesn't mean he's gonna put up 75 or 80 points, but I think a sophomore sensation would be a replication of how he did this past season on a production point, anyways.
I'm totally with you. I think that's the thing, is that he set a high bar with his rookie numbers this year.
It
So
was
that's
sensational.
one
Yeah.
factor. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, historic, obviously. Like, this is
Mhm.
this is one of those guys that thing. So he set that bar so high at that outset. Matching it is still success. And I think, to your point, teams are going to make adjustments to him. He'll make adjustments
Mhm.
as well. He's an incredibly smart hockey player. I think he's also incredibly creative. So he'll continually evolve and make it more difficult to play against him. He did have average 22 minutes and 44 seconds of ice time. So deployment, again, that's going to be interesting. The other thing, I think, team improvement. I expect the Habs to be a better hockey team
Yeah.
this year. The addition of Dobson, a full season of Demidov, all of these different things that we're going to see
Slavkovsky
from
growing.
this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, Slavkovsky, and Suzuki and Caulfield growing into a little bit more, and Suzuki with that dangling of, hey, should he be in the Olympic mix and all these other things.
Mhm.
I think that's going to be super, super fascinating to watch that team and watch Lane Hutson. But like I said, if the point total stays similar, then I think you're in a
That's a
good
huge win.
spot. Maybe you see a little bit of an improvement in the goal totals, other things like that. But hey, man, 60 assists last year as a rookie defenseman, pretty good. So I'm with you. I think he's trending towards sensation. I think that he's kind of set a baseline and will eventually become. I think we'll see him probably top out as a potentially an 80 point defenseman, 80 point per game
Oh, yeah.
defenseman. Which, if that's the case, pay that man his money because he is going to make quite
Give
a bit
that
of
man
it
his bag.
doing that. So let's talk about this next one, Cam. I think I feel really confident about where I'm going with this one. Let's talk about Mac. We've talked about him a lot on the podcast.
Sensation.
Macklin Celebrini. I mean, to me, it's not just, like Lane Hutson deservedly got the Calder. I'm not going to say, but like I think in terms of who is the best player of that
Mhm.
rookie class, the guy that I think has the highest ceiling, it is Macklin Celebrini. And I do think that he's going to be one of those guys that massively picks up that performance this year. So, what are the things that we should be watching for with Macklin this season? And he's another guy. He's in the Olympic mix. So, that carrot dangled, and we didn't mention about Hudson. Hudson not invited to the U.S. thing, which you can argue for or against. We won't cover that here, but Celebrini has that Olympic carrot being dangled as well.
Yeah, without question. It's interesting. I feel like as I've aged in this and matured in this role, I've almost become like protective of some of these super young prospects. Someone was just texting me recently, being like, is it not a successful season for Gavin McKenna if he doesn't put up like 60 or 70 points, like Fantilli and Eichel and Celebrini did? And I was like, come on, guys, like this is NCAA is difficult. Like if he puts up 50, I think we consider that a huge win. Well, it was the same thing with Mac last year. I was like, yeah, he's young. He's barely 18. Like if he comes in and he puts up 25 points, like no big deal. We saw Stammer do it. We see these guys, Jack Hughes, really struggle in their first year when they're 18 years old. Well, oh boy, he did not struggle, right? Like he looked like a man amongst boys there on a team that did not have much support with him either. So they are going to take the Sharks, I think, are going to take a little bit of a step forward too. Not a big one, but I think that they're trending in that direction on getting better and adding some of those veterans into the lineup. But he's so good. I can't see a world where he doesn't take another sizable step forward and really solidify himself that not only am I like a key player in the league, but I am an Olympic option here for Team Canada. He's so good defensively, he's so strong, and then the offense speaks for itself too. So no, I mean, point of game season, absolutely right. That's definitely within reach for him this year.
Yeah, within reach. And I think one of the guys that I've looked at, in terms of what Macklin is at this stage of his career, where the trajectory, you had, Jonathan Taves was a young player on that 2010 Olympic team. He ended up being named the top forward in the tournament as a young player, in a more of a depth role for Canada, but just ended up playing so spectacularly. And by that point, he was in his third NHL season. So I think that the order for Macklin to make that team is going to be taller. But you look at Taves's rookie scoring, very similar. Played 64 games in his rookie season, 54 points. Celebrini had 63 this year in 70 games. He stays healthy. I think he's a top tier player for the Sharks.
Mhm.
Here's a question I have for you, Cam. Let's say he stays healthy. He had 25 goals last season. Could we see a 30 goal season out of Mac this year?
I'm if he's playing 80 games, I don't think there's any reason we don't see a 30 goal season. I think we see probably a 30-50 year. Like I think He could even do 85. Like he is that good. It's just, the question is that like, can he do it with what he has around him? Because
Mm.
there are glass ceilings when you don't have elite talent to work with you now. So we're going to talk about Will Smith here in a hot second too, right? And the Sharks are looking for
Yeah.
William Eklund to take a step forward, right? And they got Toffoli there. So they do have some veterans around as well. But I mean, you throw them on, Florida. It's like, could Celebrini get 95 next year? Sure, right? But he probably can't get that level with San Jose.
Right. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see how that team looks. Projections obviously still not very favorable, still gonna be in the Gavin McKenna zone, probably, in terms of lottery and all that other stuff. But I think, one thing I'm looking at in terms of his goal totals this year, 25 goals, 8 power play goals. I would fully expect to see those power play numbers go up with that one timer that he has.
Mhm.
Them finding more ways to get it to him finding more ways to get it off. He just so good at that. And I think we're looking at, not only a sensation, but potentially a guy that's stepping into stardom right away. And I agree. Like, I think we have to be protective. I think that we have to, temper expectations, especially when the team hasn't been as good. But the thing that, I saw a player last year that was driving at the NHL level. And that,
Mhm.
to me, at his age and where he's at, I mean, the expectations are through the roof for me. And like I said, I'm with you. I feel like you almost have to be protective. But as I look at the trajectory of Jonathan Taves, his second season was a 34 goal season, 69 points. I think that's absolutely attainable for a Mlin Celibrini. And by the way, Taves was also wearing the C at that point in just his second NHL season. So I don't know if
And
we
let's
won't
say
be
this.
slapping any C's on Mac yet, but I'm sure the C is on the way
No.
at some point. So
I'm sure
yeah,
it's coming, but like, and let's just be straight up about this too. I think he's more talented than Taves was.
I
I
agree.
think he has
I
more.
agree.
I think he has more offensive skill. Like Taves was an excellent player, but he didn't have that high note. He didn't have that ability to really get into the triple digits or anything like that point wise. So I do think Mac has higher. And like talking about his goal scoring too, he clicked at 10% last year. Right, he's a finisher.
Hmm.
He like you're going to
Hmm.
see those numbers bump up. You're going to see his shot volume grow as he continues to develop too. But we're probably going to see him click around 12, 13, 14% most years. So yeah, in the 30s, you could definitely see 40 goal seasons down the line too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the goal scoring trait that he has, to me, is really really remarkable. And we talked a lot, him versus Bedard and other things like that. I was like, well, Max he's probably going to have a couple of he has a shot to be a 50 goal guy over the course of his career. At some point there. So we so Flyers fans, don't freak out. We haven't forgotten Matvei Michkov, but we're going to keep it with the Sharks just because I want to talk about Will Smith, because Will Smith was a guy that, I was skeptical, extremely skeptical, that last year that he was ready to step into the NHL. And the early goings, it did not look good. Then
Hmm.
it didn't take long though for it to turn. And as it turned, it only got better as the year progressed. It got to a point where I felt like Will Smith was, showing, hey, Mac is Mac, but I'm going to be a big part of what's happening here. I'm going to have a significant say. But again, now this is where I see maybe there's, is he going to be a sophomore sensation, or does he run the risk of a sophomore slump? Where do you land on that one, Cam?
And we've been over this a little bit in previous episodes last year, is that I had pumped the brakes on Will Smith a lot. I thought that he would have a difficult time stepping right into college. He didn't. I thought he might have a difficult time stepping out of college, and yes, during the early portion of last year. But I mean, so many guys do. It's a it's a really difficult league. But like you said, I mean, 31 points, 12 goals, 31 points in the last 37 games of the year for him. His minutes went up considerably, right? Like you've seen 14 minutes to start the season, with a minute and a half on the power play, and by the end of it, you've seen nearly 3 minutes on the power play and nearly 19 minutes a game. And so as his role increased with his production, right? I'm not sure if it was the chicken or the egg if they started giving him minutes, but I'm pretty sure he started producing and then they started giving him minutes. Is he ripe for a sophomore sensation? I don't know. I don't know about that if he's really going to pop next year, but I don't think he's going to slump. I think that his you know let's see who he plays with. Let's see that deployment. Because if he's getting to play with Mac, if he's getting lots of time with Celibrini there, obviously on the power play, I think that he could put up 50, 55 points, and I wouldn't call that a sensation, and it's certainly not a slump. So he probably lands kind of in the middle for me. I think that we won't stagnate, but he'll take a little step forward and kind of build off that second half, but I'm not expecting him to play at, the 65, 70 point pace that he did in the back half of last year.
Yeah, that's what I wonder is like, the bar that has been reset for him in terms of his production. And yeah, 32 points in 42 games from January 1st on. So that was, really the bulk of his points came in that second half of the season. I think that we started to see his minutes expand as well with that. I think by necessity, he's going to have to play quite a few minutes. I agree that, like, I
Hmm.
think that some of the things that you're hoping to see from a Will Smith, it's all going to be a process. He's still a work in progress. Like, whereas Celebrini kind of came in as a more complete kind of player, Will Smith is still basically figuring out his identity. We still don't know. Is he a long-term center? Is he going to be a wing? What's the Misa situation going to be? How does things look with Misa in the mix? Does that hamper Will Smith in any way in terms of just like reps in certain situations? You really don't know. So I think there's a bit of an unknown there, and the team quality will probably impact Smith more than it would impact Celebrini. But we also saw Will Smith go to the World Championships last year, had 7 assists for Team USA as they went through. So, I think that's those kind of things. Like, there wasn't a huge drop off there. He didn't score. He looked fine. I don't think he was amazing in the tournament by any means. He produced, obviously, but so that's also like one of those stepping stone events where we can see a player, and we're,
Hmm.
we're going to talk about Frank Nazar, where that's a big indicator of kind of for him, the expectation level that's being built up for him. But to see Will Smith have the second half that he had, despite all the doubts that you and I talked about. Like, I was saying, like, he should have been at the World Juniors. He maybe should have not left college when he did, like all those different things. And I think you have to give him and the Sharks credit for the development path that he showed over the course of last season. But I think he's of the guys that we've talked about so far, I think he's at greater risk of slump. But I kind of land a little bit more in the middle. I think that he's going to just continue progression, just maybe not, like you said, at that rapid pace that he showed at the end of the season. We're gonna, since I mentioned him, we'll go there next, I promise we're gonna get to Michkov, Flyers fans. Don't get all hot and bothered. We love Michkov. We're gonna talk about him, but I want to talk about a guy that really I think the World Championship was part of his coming out party. He had a very strong season last year as well, and that's Frank Nazar, who also signed an extremely lucrative contract, although one that I think it could age well. Um, he signs a big contract this offseason, on less than 60 games in the NHL. Where do you land on Frank Nazar? Is he going to be a sophomore sensation, or could we see a little bit of a slump, especially now he's got that big contract hanging over his head?
Yeah, yeah. You were saying Smith is maybe right versus some of these other. I wonder about Frankie, and we are at EP. We are OG truthers of Frank Nazar. Like, we love that kid. I'm pretty sure we had him 5 on our board. I think we had him 5. We really liked him. I bet on skill. That's why I said I love the Chicago, that they're betting on skill and they're locking him up early. I, like you, think that could age quite well. But there is risk attached, and there is added pressure when you're making that big a paycheck. And Chicago sucks. They don't have support for Bedard. They sure don't have support for Frankie Nazar. So you hope that they're supporting each other in some mechanism. He needs more minutes. He needs more power play minutes. He needs more minutes overall, and I think he's going to be just fine. Yes, I think that stepping out there and really popping off at the World Championships was great and indicative of where he is with his skill set. Another player who really struggled early on, like I think he had 3 points through his first like 15 or 20 games last year, and then he started to wake up and he got 30 in the back, whatever, 45 or something, or not even. So he definitely improved down the stretch there. So maybe I'll hinge and I'll say it's similar to Smith, where it's like, I think that he will take a step forward. He'll get more points. He'll play more games. Hopefully they see more minutes, but I don't think he's going to be a sensation next year. I think that that's coming down the line, especially when Chicago starts to actually add some true talent to surround some of the young guys they have.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's fair. You know, for me, I I think that he's gonna pop this year.
Nice.
I think it's gonna be. I do think that, and the reasons it's not simply, you know, like I don't want to put too much weight on the World Championship, but he did have 12 points in the first ever gold medal that USA has won at that tournament, and not only was he was playing primarily on the wing there, so that's another
Mhm.
thing to note. Like, is he going to be center wing? You know, those kind of things. He played primarily on the wing there. And we'll see what Chicago does. I think they need him to play center. They don't have a lot of centers that are like
They
credible
do
centers
not.
at the NHL level at this point. Um, you know, you know, where is Bedard going to fall in that kind of? Is he 1C? Is he on the wing? Is Nazar 2C? Is he on the wing? Like, those are the different things that I think are going to be discussed. But watching him at the AHL level last year was also revelatory because it gave Frank reps at at where he's supposed to be for the Blackhawks in terms of he was Rockford's top center or top two center, was playing significant minutes, averaged over a point per game, and then he gets into the NHL and he was more than serviceable at that level. So I'm excited to see kind of exactly where he ends up. This contract that he signed does not go into effect until the following season. He's in that last year of the
Mhm.
ELC here. He's gonna be, you know, he's got long-term security, and he was probably the guy that was one of the biggest surprises of added to the Olympic camp that USA had. And he was there, and I think it was largely because as partially a reward for going to the worlds and performing the way that he did. But I am not convinced that that is the only reason. I think there is a lot of belief in this player and what he can do. And you know, Cam, like as we talk about guys, I know like is it out of the realm of possibility that like I don't think he's necessarily going to get to this level, but like, is Braden Point like a guide for the potential, or is that just way too lofty for you? Because, like,
Gosh, I
I mean, I
mean,
think maybe that's a pie in the sky scenario, but like, still, I think like in terms of size, compete, speed, skill, like
yeah.
you know, I think there's a lot there for Frank.
I don't think he's quite the goal scorer that Braden is. The point is, but I mean, like, Point wasn't supposed to be Braden Point either. Like, obviously, many of us were screaming that he was a first round talent that slid to the third, anyways. But we still probably didn't be like, this guy could score 50. Like he could
Mhm.
be
Right,
a
right.
top 15 player in the league. Like, I still didn't think that when I was watching him rip it up in the West. Um, yeah, I think that anything is possible when you have a player as fast and as skilled as him. I don't think we probably see that complete level that Point has and that goal scoring level. But do I think he could put up 80 points in a season? Absolutely. I think he has that point per game upside as like a really dynamic offensive player with the speed. The speed is really what just drives it, right? The legs feed the wolf. So, yeah, he has a bright future, a very bright future. I'm just maybe not ready to say he's going to pop next year. Maybe year three. Year four, traditionally when these guys really break out too. So if you do take a little bit jump forward on your second year as a sophomore, that's big as it's on its own too, rather than like stalling out or regressing.
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair, and really we'll see where he lands. I mean, you know, in terms of point total for next season, you know, is a 60-point season a sensational sophomore season for him?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that
'Cause
would be pretty
that's kind of
sensational
where
for
I'm
him.
at. Like, I'm thinking 60-ish points, maybe a 20-goal season out of him.
That'd be great.
Um,
That'd be great. Yeah.
yeah, I think that'd be incredible. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. All right, let's get to Michkov. We've beat around the bush too
All
far,
right.
too long, and we'll get to some other guys too. But um,
Yeah.
so Matvei Michkov, new coach, new
Hmm.
lease on life. I mean, new philosophy organizationally. I'm not really sure, but he was outstanding. 63 points last season, tied with Celibrini for second uh, among players in point total, and I had 26 goals. I mean, I think we saw a lot of the things that we expected to see from Matvei last season, if not maybe even in some cases better. Where do you land on him? Like, this is going to be a really interesting one because there's a lot of changes in Philly. I'm not sure how good
Yeah.
they're going to be right out the gates next year, but where do we land on Michkov? Is he slump potential or sensation potential?
Is this where we get the clicks? Is this the hot button here right now? Because
Oh, here we go. Look out.
I don't think Philly's going to be very good. You know, I I don't know if they're going to be running a running gun offense, right? Rick Tocchet is like, let's play with what we have. And so he's going to look at that lineup and he's going to be like, there's not a ton of guys that we want to play fire wagon hockey against other teams here. Maybe we're going to try to lock it down. We're going to try to win games 2-1 and we're going to develop good habits and things like that. I will just get this out of the way. Matvei Michkov is so skilled. He is going to get his because of how good he is. And they should just feast him all the power play time, all the offensive zone starts, even if you're not running and gunning. You give him and you lock him with Konechny and you hopefully find a center that works with them and can generate some offense. I think he's probably going to be good for at least a replication of what he did last year. But for him to be a sensation after what he just did as a rookie, I think that's got to be 80 points. It's got to be 80, 85 points, like we were talking about for Celibrini. And I'm not expecting that this year. I'm not expecting him to do that. I am expecting him to do that soon, especially when he gets more help there in Philly and they start to take steps forward and he develops a little bit more as a player. The kid's not even 21 yet. So, if he goes out and puts up 65, 67, I think that's just fine, but I wouldn't call it a sensation. But I don't expect him to dip down to 50 or 52 or something like that, right? And slump. So I'm gonna hedge again. I'm gonna say that he probably just replicates maybe a little juicer on top.
Yeah, I that's kind of where I landed too. I think it's more of a push in this case where it's like he
Yeah.
is what he did last year. I think, like quite frankly, he did exceed my expectations last year, and I expected him to have
Yes.
a good rookie
Yes.
season. But I thought I was like, hey, this is because we have seen Matvei for years and have seen him just do incredible things. The one thing, like I continue to say about him that I feel was even more evident last year when you see it with, and this is where I would like to see Philly, build some more talent around him. And they're doing that through the draft. When you get Martone and others kind of in the mix a little bit later on, there will be more of that. But just the incredible offensive intelligence of Michkov, knowing where to be, knowing what to do, knowing how to pick teams apart already. Getting lost in space and being dangerous at all times. Like he is a
Mm-hmm.
player that I do think is going to have significant run in the NHL as a top tier goal scorer. That's where I what I think for me like is I think that 30 is well within his reach this year for goals. I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not ready to say he's going to be a go 40, and like 40 would be a sensation. 40 would be an absolute
Yes.
sensation.
Even 40,
But I think
40 plus 20 assists would be a sensation.
yeah, exactly. Like another
Yeah.
60, another 60-point season. And that's the other thing is like
Yeah.
the goal scoring's one thing, but gosh, the playmaking and the reads and the different things that he was doing with the puck and making others around him better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Now he's got a year of experience. And I think for a
Yeah.
supercomputer that he has in his brain, that is just, absolutely like he's like downloading updates right now and we're gonna be fine. Like he's gonna be going and rolling. So I'm excited to see his sophomore season. I think like because of Philly where they're at right now, 60. But I think long term, I think Michkov's definitely got that 100-point potential. We'll see where things go. I think he's got perennial 30 goal scorer, probably even closer to 40 in a number of years. Maybe he tickles 50. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, we're down this list now, Cam. We're talking about
Yeah.
all these guys. It's exciting. I mean, like the NHL continues to bring these rookie classes in, and this year's class is going to be awesome too, with the
Yeah.
number of guys they have in there. But I mean, this group that we're talking about, like, most of them, we don't feel like there's going to be much of a drop off because they've shown like above and beyond what we even expected them for rookies. So But that could change because we're going to start getting into some of the guys that are a little further down the list in the scoring here. And I want to get back to another young American standout,
Mhm.
and that would be Cutter Gauthier. And Cutter
Yep.
has always been, he can be. It's funny that we're following up a Flyers prospect with Gauthier here. Um,
Yeah.
if I were Philly, I would probably, I would prefer to have both of them as opposed to one of them. Um, but 44 points last season, nothing to sneeze at. 20 goals as a rookie. I feel like it was almost kind of quiet. And then he goes to the Worlds and he has 5 goals there, 9 points, and just continues to elevate. And, you know, but he's another one. Where do we go from here? There's some changes to the Ducks, new coaching staff, other things there.
Mhm.
How does Joel Quenneville handle him? All of these different things that we just simply do not know going into the season. Where do you land on Cutter?
I think he slumps. I think he slumps. I think this is the first one where I'm like, he's going to slump a little bit. I think that, half of his assists last year were secondary, difficult to replicate. His minutes and his power play deployment consistently dipped throughout the year as well. Now, like you said, different coaching staff, how they're going to handle him, we'll see. But I think that they have so many young players there in Anaheim, and McTavish, I do believe, will get done, and he'll be there, and he'll be skating with the Ducks this year too, and he needs to take a step forward. And I think that organizationally, he's more important to them, and they're gonna fancy getting him into better spots and more power play opportunities too. And Leo Carlson's got to take a step forward, and so there just might not be enough to go around for Cutter next year. And so I think he regresses. I don't think we see him score 20. And what did he end up with? 45 points or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
44.
I'm gonna say
Yeah.
I'm gonna say he does something like a 17-17 season or something like that. And I'm sorry, Cutter, but I'm calling the slump next year.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. He's another guy that I think there's too many variables and too many unknowns about where this next season is going to go. The Joel Quenneville factor is,
Mm-hmm.
what is his style going to look like? What is it going to, with years away? Um, the fact that there were a lot of people that said, Greg Cronin was not really gonna give the offensive, the offensive players weren't going to flourish as much, in that setting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Quenneville has had a variety of stops, a variety of players that he's had to coach. You know, is Cutter the kind of guy that can maybe fall into the Quenneville doghouse that we saw many times over the course of his career, where some of these younger guys, either it was to hold them accountable, or a veteran coach being annoyed by a player not doing certain things. That
Mm-hmm.
to me is really the variable here. And I think you're right in terms of like Leo Carlson. Let's see, like, is he going to get more run? McTavish seems like more like that Quenneville style player. Is he going to get more run?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. The absence of Zegras too is another thing that just kind of like, what is that going to do to the overall offensive dynamic? That actually puts more pressure on Cutter to pick up some
Mm-hmm.
slack there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think, but I'm leaning a little bit more towards you. I don't, it wouldn't surprise me if he took a bit of a step back, but he's also one of those players where he overperformed my expectations for last season. And
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
there's actually, cause yeah, like I think that that's, and in doing that, sometimes that means, well, you're going to take the next step, and sometimes it means you're going to level for a bit. I think he
Yeah.
has a chance to more be one of the guys that are level. But I mean, interesting player nonetheless. Now, I have a question for you.
I'm
When you
ready.
saw Jackson Blake,
Mm.
Carolina Hurricanes, make
Yeah.
the NHL as quickly as he did, one, were you surprised? And two, where does it go from here?
I was very surprised, to be quite honest with you. We're talking about a fourth round pick who just suddenly popped. I mean, obviously he had a good time at North Dakota there, right? He was tearing it up.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not a big player. He's sub 6 foot. He's not a heavy player, but he just plays with such tenacity. Defensively, he's so sound. With him though, too, is like, his role on that team is really interesting. And by the end of the year, excuse me, he was seeing over 3 minutes on the power play. Right. Like that alone, that's just like that. You play on the Hurricanes and you're getting power play minutes and you're getting looks on the first line next to Aho. And it's like he earned those opportunities, but then he made good on them too. So I was definitely, surprised that he was able to step in and do so well. And I mean, I just called Cutter to do a 17-17 season as a slump next year. That's what Jackson Blake did in his rookie season, and we considered it a wild success. Now, if the question is, do I think he's going to be a sensation next year? No, I do not. But I don't think he's
Mhm.
going to slump. I don't think he's going to take big steps back. But I don't think that this is a player that we're looking at to now all of a sudden jump up and be like a 60-point guy, and then in year 4 be an 80-point guy, and then maybe push 90 or 95. I don't think he has that level to him. I think he's going to be a consistent, like, hey, I can score 20, 25, I can put up 50, 55. And I can do all sorts of different little intangible things for you and be kind of a table setter or be a Swiss Army knife throughout the lineup. And so I think he's just going to be similar to what he was last year. And I think that that's just fine for where he is at his developmental stage.
Absolutely. Now I have another question for you. What did you think of the contract that he's an 8-year deal, average cap hit of $5.1 million off of that 17-17-34 season. Does not go
Mhm.
into effect until 26, 27. So what'd you think when you saw that deal come across?
I thought that that was Eric Tulsky cooking, right? Like that was him taking a swing, that this guy loves looking at the numbers, projecting out like that 5 million in 3 years when it's the second year of his deal is going to be what 3 million is today. Right. So if you have someone
Right.
who's playing in your top 6, who's playing on your power play, who's killing penalties for you, who's doing all these intangible things, and he's scoring 25 goals, putting up 50 points for like the equivalent of 3 million on the cap hit, that's massive. It's massive. So I think he's taking a calculated risk that we're going to see Blake be the player that he looked like for much of last season and obviously develop as he gets into. But yeah, I think that's shrewd business right there to keep that number so low and lock him up for so long. I think that Blake himself left money on the table, but he gets that long-term security. He gets to play on a contender, an organization that obviously values him and shows it by the minutes that they're giving him and the players that he's getting to play with too. So all around, I think it's a good bet for both player and team. And I think it's going to probably age quite well.
Yeah, I think it is that calculated risk. And I was kind of like, ooh, okay. All right, that's a lot. Now, let's see if this trend continues. Jackson Blake's first season at North Dakota, super impressive. 42 points, over a point per game player as a freshman. The next season, 60 points in 40. Going back to his USHL days, he had 17 points in 25 games. And then the following season, 77 points in 61 games. Scoring 77 points in the USHL is a tall order. So he is always leveled up. Like he gets that 1 year. So does the trend continue in the NHL? I'm actually a little bit more with you. I think that it's not going to be that slump. It's that level out that we talked a little bit about with Gauthier as well, because I think that to me, like you said, like we were wowed by 17-17-34, and that was all resulting from our prior expectations. Now I'm like, okay, well, I don't even know how to reset those expectations. Obviously,
Yeah.
Carolina does to the tune of an 8-year contract, but like those are the things where he's going to be interesting. I think the things that work, and this is a credit to their scouting too. They obviously have the guys they like and players that are a certain identity. Jackson Blake fits that to a T. Like
Yes, he does. Yeah.
he is a Carolina Hurricane through and through. And I feel like that is the philosophy that carried Tampa to a number of cups, though they did have those big guys that were like those high draft picks like Stamkos and Hedman that were able to
Hmm.
build around. But then that you add the Tyler Johnsons and the Kucherovs and the Points and the Palots and all those, and I feel like Carolina needs, they need to get that guy that's right at the top, the tippy top of the whole thing. Um,
Hmm.
Aho is certainly one of them, but is that enough alone? So we'll see where they go. But I think Jackson Blake is probably one of the more fascinating players to watch, and I wanted to include him on this list because I think that is one that can go a lot of different ways. Let's do one more here before we move on, and we're going to stick with Carolina, and we're going to stick with our guy Logan Stankoven. We have both really liked the player for a long time. He comes in, obviously, was part of the Rantanen trade, the second one. So he comes in 38 points in 78 games during the regular season, and then we saw also from him in the playoffs. That's he got a little chance to get a little run there. 8 points in 15 games, averaging about 15.33 a game. 24 shots on goal as well for Carolina during the playoffs. So, Cam, Logan Stankoven, what are we going to expect from him this year? Is it going to be a sophomore sensation, or is he going to be a little bit of a slumper?
Talk about guys that are Carolina Hurricanes through and through. Like
That's
that
true.
guy is a Carolina Hurricane. Hey, like sure he was a Dallas Star for a minute there, but he's a Hurricane. I love Logan Stankoven. I think he's going to be a star. I think he's going to be a star in this league. Um, so no way am I calling for a slump for him next year. I'm saying he takes a nice step forward next season. Will it be sensational? Will it be 65, 70 points? I'm not quite sure about that just yet, but I think it's possible. I think that he could come out there and hit that 60-point mark. And I think that would be pretty sensational as a second year player for him, because they do spread their offense out a little bit in Carolina as well too. So getting time with Aho is going to be key for the most part, or maybe him and Svechnikov find some love together across each other, and maybe Svech finally pops off. But I do think that he's got more potential to be a sensation next year than a slumper.
Yeah, I won't fight you on that one. I think that there's what's going to be interesting is actually these two guys in tandem, Blake and Stankoven, and who ends up with more minutes as the season progresses. Who's the guy that's
Should
playing a
be
little bit
staying.
like because that
Yeah.
I would think so. I would think so. You go, going off of the last postseason for that, it was Blake who had close to
Mhm.
17 minutes a night to Stankoven's 15.33. And so that's the thing. I agree. Like I think I think the offensive upside is higher with Stankoven, but I also think that
Yeah.
there's a level of like what Jackson Blake brings and the speed and the just the ability to get up and down the ice at the level that he does. That's something that I think really feeds into the way that they play, as much as Stankoven's style does with the tenacity and the skill and everything else. But I agree with you completely. Like he is absolutely a Carolina Hurricane. He's another great draft story for the Dallas Stars, who
Mhm.
did pick him up in the third round. Right, third round, and so
Second round.
you have that second round, late second round,
Yeah,
right?
40,
So,
40 something,
um,
40, 43 or
yeah,
45 or something.
47. Thank you. Yeah, 47. Still, again,
There
a,
you go.
a player.
Yeah.
Do you guys have him in the first round? Probably.
Yeah, well, I certainly
That
did. I think I had him 21 on my board. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
We
around where
had him
I
as a
had him
first round
too.
too. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's around where I had him too. And really, and then he goes on. He becomes one of the best players in the CHL. He goes in the AHL for a year. One of the best players in the AHL. Comes into the NHL and is able to make an impact. I think I'm with you. I think that he's going to trend up. I think that he and Blake are going to be just watching them in tandem. Who takes the reins between those two guys? That'll determine ultimately who is the sensation of those two. But what a great problem to have if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, because they're both on your hockey club, and you've got other guys waiting in the wings, Bradley Nadeau and others that you could potentially look at,
Yeah.
to add to your undersized but not under talented group of players. So, all right. Well, that was fun. Little sophomore slump sensation. Obviously, a lot of potential in that rookie class. And then next year's rookie class, we're going to talk about them when we get a little closer to the NHL season, as we see kind of who makes teams and who's going to stick around. But lots to come on that front. We're gonna switch gears here, Cam. And there was a little bit of news this week that some of the new NHL CBA provisions that are going to be rolled out will roll out early, which is to say, like starting this season and beyond. One of the ones that was at least talked about the potential of happening was 19-year-olds, an NHL team being allowed to assign one 19-year-old to the AHL. And so that is, as of right now, if you are a player that's drafted out of the CHL specifically, so if you were drafted out of college or the of USHL or some other league
USHL.
like that, this does not apply to you. But if you were drafted out of the CHL, it is a rule and basically an agreement between the NHL and the CHL that you have to be loaned back to the team that has your CHL rights if you do not make the NHL team. You'll hear a lot of people talk about the 9 games that players get. In a lot of cases, the only other recourse teams have is to send that player back to junior. Otherwise, they will burn that first year of their contract and maybe not feel so great about doing that. So, Cam, we're moving into this here. It's probably not going to happen this year. They were talking about it. It's not going to happen this year. It's expected though that it will happen soon. Like this is trending in this direction. One, should it happen? And two, what do you think are maybe some of the ramifications, ripple effects that you see with this happening?
Yeah, when I saw that report by Puckpedia, because I'd had someone say that some of those things, those new CBA things, were going to come into effect, but not the 19-year-old rule. And so I immediately texted some teams, and basically they all came back being like, we don't expect it to go through this year. Um, is it a good thing? Should it happen? Yeah, probably. Is it going to impact the CHL? Yeah, probably. You're going to lose some of your better players, but here's the thing: most of the top 19-year-olds moving forward are probably going to go to the NCAA. We're looking at guys this year that would have had a chance to play in the AHL if it did get shoved through. Guys like Michael Misa, Beckett Seneca, Sam Dickinson, Zane Perek, Jet Luchenko. I know Philly had looked at having him go. So there's these guys, but they're all in that world because they signed their ELCs before they knew that they had a chance to go play NCAA. I think we're going to see a bunch of guys not sign their ELCs so that they can go play NCAA after their draft year, and then they can take that course instead. And so the guys like Brady Martin, who says, like, I'm either going to be a farmer, I'm going to be a hockey player, I got no business going to school. It's going to be fine for them to sign their ELCs because you know what, they'll probably just make the NHL at 19. But if they don't, I guess there's the OHL or the CHL is going to lose that quality of player. But it's we've talked about it a lot. It's going to be a younger league. The CHL will be, so I don't think it's going to affect them as much as it would have if this came into effect a decade ago. And now you're actually losing like the cream of the crop, these 19-year-olds that are maybe ready to play an NHL team if the team is bad enough, but there's not a room on that one. So, you don't go back to junior and rip up and put up 120 points. You go to the American League and you put up 45 points and you get your feet wet in pro hockey, and the OHL loses all their most marketable stars. Now we're seeing them leave already. And so, yes, it's going to hurt. It's another ding on the CHL. How's it going to affect the AHL? Probably not too much. Maybe it becomes slightly more developmental where, some of the organizations aren't developmental teams in that league. But overall, I think it's going to be good for the players, right? I keep coming back to that as I am pro player, and I want to give every player, I think, deserves a chance to go take the best route that gives them the greatest opportunity for success long-term to go get that bag and solidify it, because it's a short career. And then what do you got to do?
Yeah, so this has been talked about for years, especially in the spaces that we
Mm-hmm.
operate in, and that's, the thing that I think a lot of people have said, hey, like this, if we want to be pro development, we have to allow for more options for players once they've signed to have to be able to go to different places. That, the fact that if you played college hockey for 1 year and were drafted out of the USHL, you play college hockey for 1 year and you can go into the AHL and make money,
Mm-hmm.
and make and
Mm-hmm.
earn a living as as an adult, as a legal adult. And then these other players cannot. It's pretty tough to swallow. Now, the NHL has put a governor on this by saying you can't. It's not going to be everybody. You can't just put all your 19-year-olds in the AHL. And I don't think that would be a smart move anyway to have it all, because the
No.
AHL is a difficult league. But we're starting to see some little glimpses, Cam, of how this could potentially impact the AHL. I think that a lot of the teams are becoming much more developmentally focused, and as such, we are seeing probably one of the largest departures of veteran AHL
Exodus.
players this
Yeah.
offseason than we've ever seen before. A lot of them are going to Europe. You can just look
Mhm.
at the Hershey Bears, one of the great franchises and great teams in the AHL, historic championship-laden team. I believe somewhere around 7 players that were part of last year's roster will be playing in Europe next season. A number of guys in the
Mhm.
KHL in Switzerland and Sweden. And
Yeah.
that's those players are going those opportunities because the opportunities are shrinking for those older players. There are always going to be places for guys like TJ Tynan, Chris Tierney, guys that have played in the league for a long time who make the younger guys better and they're beneficial. And I've long been an advocate for those veteran players in the AHL being some of the most important developmental assets teams have in their organization because their young players go play with those guys. They go play with those guys
And
and
they
they
get
get better
paid.
because and they get paid. They get paid
And they
well. They
pay
get
him, and
paid
they
well.
pay him, right? They pay him. Yeah.
They do. Yeah, the guys that are on AHL only deals that are those veteran deals, those can get up there. And the guys that are on two
Mhm.
ways, they get them worked out so that they're getting a pretty nice six-figure salary in the AHL. So they're making a good living and they're continuing to play hockey at a very high level. So this rule by I think the AHL is getting younger already, and this will allow it to continue that trend. And it'll be more of that hybrid step, maybe not necessarily the finishing, it is still the best finishing school that there is. It has what 87, I believe, more than that, 90 some percent of NHL players played in the AHL first. I mean, so it's still a very important step in the developmental ladder. But yeah, this is where it's going to get interesting because the AHL obviously needs to continue to have these players, and having those star 19-year-old players are probably more beneficial to them. As I almost knock over my water here, their players having those players are more beneficial. From a marketing standpoint, from NHL fan interest
Yeah.
standpoint, and different things like that. So either way, I think it's good. But the other thing is by putting the governor of basically saying it can't be every 19-year-old you have, it does protect the CHL to some degree, not perfectly. And as you mentioned, those players now have that option to go to the NCAA. So, this new landscape, we're all trying to figure it out, but this is going to be a big part of it and a very important part of it. And I think some players are going to see this as an opportunity to turn pro a little bit earlier and some of them will do that. That might take a few guys away from the NCAA. And then it might also push more guys that way just to say, I want that hybrid instead. I want to see if I can skip a step and go that way. So there's a lot of different things on the table there with all that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Losing my train of thought as I just completely draw a blank. Before we move on, I do think that this will, in terms of how this will impact the NCAA, you talked about it. Could it push more guys that way? Yes, maybe. Could it push other guys? I do think if you are the CHL, I do think that this could potentially buy you an extra year of an 18-year-old player. If this is, I do think there's that. Um, you know, I do think that we're going to see fewer and fewer players sign their ELC immediately after the draft or in that month or 2 months. So those players will be probably taking these decisions right down to the wire. As we saw this season with guys committing in August and guys could some still commit? Who knows? But there's a lot on the line, and this is going to change. It's going to be an adjustment. I think that there are a lot of people in the CHL that do have nerves about this. But in the end, if it's already starting to get younger, lean into that. Continue to be a premier developmental option for those 16 to 18-year-old players. And the quality is still going to be very high. It might be a little bit different, might have a little less star power. Those are things that do impact the league to a certain degree, and it's a reason why this rule exists, to keep those players in there longer. But there's more to come. So we'll talk about it more, but I want to get to our new segment here, Cam, that we've been doing
Mhm.
since we came back from break. And it's where we either can look really smart or really stupid, embarrass ourselves, and see if our memories are any good at all. But it's the called up challenge, and we are back with another
Mhm.
called up challenge, and this is a little different than what we've done before. So I want to explain this to you guys. We're going to change this up every now and again. We want you to be able to play along at home, so you guys hang out with us and do this with us. So here's what we're going to do this week. This week, we are going to try to name the top 5 NHL scorers, top 5 in points from a certain draft class. Now, Cam and I did not clear these with each other ahead of time. We each have 2 options
Mm-mm.
in case there are any repeats. Let's hope we both didn't pick the same 2 options. But either way, I
Yeah.
think that we'll be fine. We're going to do 1 class each. I'm going to start off and let Cam go and be the guinea pig, and we'll see how that goes for him. And then he's going to ask me the same. And we want you guys see if you can do it without looking at Hockey DB, Elite Prospects, anywhere you're going for your draft
Don't even say
class.
DB. Get out of here.
Hey, I realized who my co-host was in a second. I actually,
Yes.
there's a lot of different ways to get draft class numbers, but anyway, go to Elite Prospects.
Only one good one.
So we're gonna start it here with this called up challenge, and I'm going to kick it off. So
I'm
again,
ready.
top 5
I'm ready.
scores. This top 5 scores. We're going to give you the draft year, who went number 1, and then you try to. And this does not have to be in order. We're just trying to get the 5 names at the top, and we will see how it goes. All right, Cam.
Yes.
I'm going 2016. Austin
Okay.
Matthews is the number 1 pick. Go.
Austin Matthews is in the top 5. Austin Matthews is definitely in
He's
the top
number
5.
1. Number 1.
Okay, 26. Okay, so that was Line A was 2. I don't actually think Line A is probably in that. Puljujärvi was at 3. No. Pierre-Luc Dubois was at 3. He's not going to be there.
Mhm.
Okay, Matt Tkachuk. Tkachuk's ought to be
Number
on there.
2. Number
Oh
2
yeah, here we go. We're cooking. We're cooking now. We're cooking now.
in a row.
Okay, I'm trying to think. I'm thinking. So that's Olio Levy. He's not gonna. Clayton Keller.
Clayton Keller is number 4. So we've got
Okay, there we go.
Clayton Keller. Yeah, I like it.
Now it's gonna get tricky. Now it's gonna get tricky.
It is.
20. Yeah. Okay. So there's gonna be some weirdo, isn't there? There's gonna be some weirdo who is in like a second rounder.
I'll give you 2. I'll give you a hint. Neither of the
Okay.
next 2 that you haven't guessed, neither of them were first round draft picks.
Oh God. Yeah, that was what I was afraid of. 2016.
Yeah, this does get
I
hard
want
quickly.
I wanted to say Aho, but he was a 15. He was a second rounder in 15.
Yep, correct.
Okay, give me a sec. Give me a sec here. Outside of
How
the
about
first
this?
round
How
in
about another clue?
2016. Okay, give me another
I'm going to
clue.
give you one clue. He's related to the answer that you gave last week in terms of our called up challenge last week. May have played on the same team as him in junior.
He's related to.
So it was Dylan Strome was our answer last week.
Oh, and he's related to him?
Well, he's not related to him.
Yeah, I was
He's
gonna
played
say
on the
it's not
same
his
junior.
brother. It's not Ryan.
He's played on the same junior team as him.
DeBrincat. Alex DeBrincat.
Yep. He is number 3 with
DeBrincat.
510
Oh, of
points.
course
He
he
is 2
is.
points ahead of Clayton Keller. So
Of
DeBrincat. All
course he
right.
is. The cat.
All right. Next hint. This guy was a 6th round draft pick.
It's Jesper Bratt.
Yes, there it is. I knew if I gave you 6th round,
I
you'd get
needed
Jesper
some
Bratt.
help on that one. 6th rounder.
So
Woo,
not only that was really impressive
tricky.
because we were going to give each other like multiple guesses and all that other stuff, but you got it.
Oof.
I think you went, in after getting a couple of hints on the tougher ones, you went
Yeah.
5 for 5. So now I
All
am
right.
petrified. Did you have 2016 as one of your options?
I did not. No, thank goodness I did not
Okay.
have
All right,
2016.
great. All right.
Okay, but I'm not making it easy for you here. But it's a little more recent, so hopefully it's fresh in your
Okay.
mind. We're going 2018.
I like
Mr. Rasmus Dahlin's draft.
I think I know number 1. I think number 1 is
Give
Quinn
it to me.
Hughes.
You
Quinn
nailed
Hughes,
that. I thought that
number
might
one.
trip you up a little bit. Queenie is number one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I got number 2 is Brady Tkachuk.
Oh, he's rolling. Number 2 is Brady Tkachuk.
Fun fact: Brady Tkachuk, Quinn Hughes lived with Big Walt when they
Buddies.
were in the NTDP together. That's a lot of NHL points
They love
under
you.
one roof. All
Those are
right, now
boys right there.
those 2 I knew. The rest is going to be a little bit tricky. Okay, so number 3.
Mm-hmm.
See who else was in that group. So we got one Darlene. Oh, is Fetch 3?
Svetch is 3. You're rolling, buddy. You're rolling.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. So we got Svetch at 3. Darlene 4.
He's doing it in order even. He's doing it in order. He's killing it here.
Now I that I this is my best called up
Now,
challenge ever, but here it goes at 5 where
without a
I'm just
doubt.
gonna be completely lost here. 5, trying to think of who else was
Mm,
in that group. 2018,
yeah.
yeah, Darlene. All right, I'm gonna need one hint because I can't. I'll take too much time racking my brain on it.
It's a defenseman.
It is a defenseman, so Darlene
Mm-hmm.
Hughes,
Who else was
Bouchard.
there's who other Evan Bouchard at number 5. He goes 5 for 5. Noah
Oh,
Dobson at number 6. I thought might have hooked you a little bit there. Dobson just 8 points back of Bouchard.
what a draft! Like like it's fun to look at it this way. Like you think about that the draft and yeah, I mean Noah Dobson, and then I just pulled it up. Yeah, I mean like
Remember Chicago took
that's
Boquist at
yeah.
8? Too bad for them.
Wow, yeah, that one would
Too
have
bad for
yeah,
them.
that would have destroyed me. But yeah, though that's really interesting though. All right, I like that. I like that one. Did you like that one?
Good for you. I like that
I
one.
like
That
that.
was
That was
fun.
fun. We both had fun.
Yeah.
We both didn't look like complete idiots. So that's great. We like that.
Check.
All right.
Yeah.
Called up challenge. It's a winner, folks. It's a winner. I mean,
Uh,
it's fun. It's fun to come up with too. All right.
yeah.
Cam, let's get back to some hockey talk here as we get out of the game show portion of our of our podcast and we go to Beyond Belief. And this is gonna, Beyond Belief is where we give each other a topic. We decide if it's beyond belief or believable based on our opinions. And we're gonna start this off talking a little bit about kind of what we just talked about with the AHL. 19-year-olds in the AHL will be a massive hit to the CHL in terms of competitiveness, notoriety, those kinds of things.
I'm going to say beyond belief. I'm going to say it's beyond belief that it will not impact the CHL that much because not every team is going to have organization is going to have a 19-year-old that they feel is ready to go into the American League. And all the best ones are probably going to be gone anyways. They're either going to be in the show or they're going to be in college. So I think it's going to be, maybe, there's going to be a couple players that they're going to be like, oh, darn, would have liked to have him this year again. But it's probably best for his development. And we can just wish him well.
Yeah, that was a great point too. Like, how many teams are actually going to want to take that step with their 19-year-old player? I mean, last year, like
Yeah.
Constantine Helenius had, like he was a 19-year-old in the AHL. He was fine. It wasn't amazing, like
Yep.
he was fine.
Yep.
And a lot of guys, that's the case. They are fine. They do all right. So I
It's
agree with you. I
hard.
think
It's hard
that's
to play in
beyond
that
belief.
league.
Yeah, and the other thing too is we have to give the people in hockey a little more credit in their ability to adapt and make the best of these situations. Are they going to grumble about it for a while? Yeah. Oh yeah. It's change. Change is hard. But I think in the teams that spend less time grumbling and more time figuring out how to work it to their advantage, they're going to be the ones that have success in this whole thing. And I think it'll happen.
Totally.
All right, my man. Your turn.
Will Smith, P.S., who I hung out with at the rooftop pool in LA at the draft. Lovely guy. Lovely guy. Will Smith, had to slide that in there, will eclipse 65 points this season. He's going to pop off.
Man. So he had what, 44 last season?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it's beyond belief, but I think he's going to get close. I don't think he's going to get past 65 points. I think he's going to be an over 50-point player. He's going to have an improvement over last season. I do think that there's going to be, like we talked about, some of those limitations that are going to impact him a little bit more than maybe some of the other guys in that group. But I think Will Smith is, I think he's going to trend towards, a perennial, you know, 75, 80, 75, 90 point player. I think he's offensively really intelligent. And while I don't think it's going to happen this way for him this year, I do think that he's on a good path to getting there. We'll definitely be keeping a very close eye on Will Smith's point total this season.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll carbon copy what you said, but I will say it is believable. It is
Oh,
believable that he will break 65, right? It's just we're just not betting on it. We're just not betting on it,
right,
but it is
exactly. Yeah,
believable.
like I'm just gonna say,
Yeah.
like if you were doing over unders, I'll probably
Yeah.
take the under in that
Taking the
one. But
under.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Now, here's a guy that we didn't talk about because we didn't talk about rookies. We will have a more in-depth discussion about it, but I wanted to get this one out there because we talked a lot about
Mhm.
Demidov last week. Let's talk about another forward that got a little NHL action towards the end of last season. Ryan Leonard of the Washington Capitals will be a legitimate Calder Trophy candidate next season.
Beyond belief. I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. I don't think he's going to be a legitimate threat for the Calder next year. Yeah, that's just about it. I just don't think he's going to be able to seamlessly transition well enough to put up, to even do what like maybe Cutter did. Maybe getting 20 goals and 45 points I think might be lofty for Ryan Leonard next year. And I like the player. I love the jam. I think he's got skill, but I do think there will be a transition phase. And so if he's one of these guys that ends up with 25 or 30 points next season, I'm not worried. But I think that he might end up in that category versus someone who's really and to contend for the Calder next year, you're contending against Demidov. You're going up against Matty
Right.
Schaefer, maybe Michael Misa. Like there's going to be some big, big talent players there that are going to be slipping into the NHL. So he's going to have to push 55, 60 points probably to be a viable contender. And I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, and it was one of those where I kind of this jogged my memory. I put this on there because the NHL Upper Deck Showcase thing is going on, and just seeing him reminded me. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh yeah, like he did play 9 games last year. He was in the lineup when Ovi broke the record. Like it's like all these
Yeah.
crazy things happening to him. But Ryan Leonard, 1 goal in 9 regular season games, 1 assist in 8 playoff games. I think I'm with you. I think he's going to be better served by that, but he's probably more going to be in that maybe have like below like Gauthier is pretty nice to shoot for, and he was what
Yeah.
5th in Calder voting or 6th. So yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that I'd say you're probably right on that one.
Okay. Rookie tournaments will become a thing of the past in the next 3 years. We'll be done with them. Start the season earlier. No more rookie tournaments.
So that's why I think it's believable that it could happen.
Mhm.
This year I believe there are only 2 teams that are not participating in a rookie game or rookie showcase of some kind. So clearly that there is a value there. We did see the end. There's no young stars this year. In for the in Penticton, which we've usually seen, there is no more Traverse City tournament, which was really one of the original ones that
Marquee
we
ones.
that we kind of come to
Yeah.
know, and more teams got involved. But I think because of the earlier season and the training camp situation, we will see a fewer games end up in we'll see fewer games these types of games. I think fewer teams participating in them. The question will be, is it an opportunity to make money? Is it an opportunity to
Yeah.
really learn a lot about the players? Is it just a chance to set a baseline? But I think you'd have to push those up earlier and earlier, and I would imagine that would become a little bit problematic in terms of team preparation and things like that. So I think once we see that schedule move up, I have a feeling that we'll start to see fewer and fewer of these, and then eventually maybe none at all. But who knows? And the other, Cam, I should say the opposite could be true as well, because there's fewer preseason games. Maybe they want to get the rookies some more looks, but
Yeah.
it could go. I just think it's been trending negatively the last couple of years in terms of teams' commitment to them and the kind of players that are ending up in these events as it is anyway. So
Agreed.
That's 2 weeks in a row of just slagging on the rookie tournaments. So
We're done now.
but they do start on September 12th. So next week you can enjoy them
Nice.
or don't. I don't care. Uh, so anyway, all right. So we talked a lot about the young players, and that brings us to our final segment of the show, and that is you have to pick one. Talked a lot about Mlin Celibrini and Will Smith and their future projection. Talked a lot about Frank Nazar. Um, and, didn't talk about Connor Bedard, but obviously he's a young player in this mix. You look at the rebuilds as they stand right now. You've got San Jose, you've got Chicago. As we learn more information about these two teams, and I think we're going to talk about this ad nauseum for years as these two teams develop. Who would you rather be in the driver's seat of? Would it be San Jose or would it be Chicago? Or, and I know you have to pick one, but you could pick one of or other.
Oh God, or other. Don't put or other in front of me. I'm having a hard enough time with these two. You know, let's just call Celebrini and Bedard a wash. Let's just wash them away. Okay. And then now we're looking at like Smith and Nazar. I like, I'm just gonna say it. I'm going with San Jose. I like, Misa and Dickinson and Musty, and they've got Askarov and they got Chernishev and they've got, like I mentioned, Smith. And I respect what's going on in Chicago. I think if they had taken Demidov, I would say Chicago. Even though Levshinov is a really interesting player too, but I think if they went Demidov there, I would be like, yeah, give me Chicago. But at this point, I'm taking San Jose, and also if I'm the one in the driver's seat, that means I get to live in California, which sounds like a great time to me too.
Yeah. Well, I'm originally from Chicago, so I'm like,
You
I
are,
could live at
yeah.
home. So, but I also, I've got family in Northern California. I could do that too. I'm all about it.
Mm,
Yeah, and I think it does come down to like, to me, I think who has the best player that's gonna help, and I think Celebrini is the best of the two. But I look at the totality of what Chicago has. What I do think Chicago has a better mix for the future is on the
defense,
blue line.
defense.
I think
Oh
the
yeah,
blue line is a difference maker in this argument.
yeah.
Dickinson is a great centerpiece, but
Hmm.
there's not a lot there in that next group for there. And then you also have to take in consideration some of the younger players on the team, different guys that will continue to be, in or near their prime. For Chicago, you've got you've got Levshinov. We'll see what happens with Korchinski. Rinzel took a huge step last year.
Rinzel.
Vlasic is the veteran guy. He's in the U.S. Olympic camp. He's got the
Hmm.
size factor. You've got all these different guys, and then they've also built kind of some of these depth pieces like AJ Spellacy and Merrick Vanaker and all these guys that could play in the depth of
Oliver
their lineup.
Moore.
Oliver
Yeah,
Moore, Sasha Boisvert. Like there is a
yeah,
depth to Chicago's prospect pool that I think
yeah.
really is a factor. And so I
Hmm.
will also still take San Jose because I think that the pieces are a little bit more in place there. But I do not think that Chicago is very far off. And we haven't
No,
seen the Bedard pop yet, and it's coming. We know
and
it's
it's
coming. It's
coming.
not
It's coming.
it could what is he going to be?
It's
What
coming.
do we call a third season in the NHL? The sophomore, they're really not sophomores, but
The
junior.
junior season, right? Yeah,
Okay,
he's a
sure, yeah.
junior season. Then he's got
Let's call it
senior
11th
season.
grade.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Grade 13. Yeah. No, I'm with you though. I think that is going to change the course of this as well. That if all of a sudden, which we do believe Bedard will be Bedard, he will be what we expected. If he goes out there and runs it out and he puts up 50 goals and 100 plus points, and then it's like, because you said that pretty quickly that Celebrini's the better player. I'm not ready to say that. I think that Celebrini could be the more well-rounded player at this point in
yeah.
time. And if I had to pick one to put on my roster today, this very second, it would be hard to say Bedard over Celebrini. But I think that Connor has the higher upside. I think that he could be special. He could be 55, 60 goals, 135 points special. And I truly believe that he has it in him. I don't think Celebrini has that level in him. I'm not ready to anoint Celebrini as the better player long term on this, and I think that Bedard factor will definitely come into play. as we break this down ad nauseum over the next 3, 5, 7 years.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you that it, I want to see in the next, do we see these teams meet in the Western Conference final in 5
Oh,
years?
that'd be fun.
Could it'd be amazing. And then that would solve the
Yeah.
debate. Then the debate would be solved in the most basic of terms. Um, but there's a lot, a lot can change, a lot of different things. I do think, but I will say, I think that Chicago clearly has the deeper of the two pools, but we'll see where things go from there. Well, Cam, it's been fun, man. What's coming up on Elite Prospects as we creep ever closer to the season? It's almost here. It really is. We've only got 2 weeks before we go to we've got junior hockey season starting. Actually, the OJHL and a number of other CJHL leagues are starting the day we're recording this. So regular season hockey is here. So Cam, what's coming up on Elite Prospects that fans should be watching out for?
We're still rolling out the organizational rankings, our prospect rankings for each team there. So those are still coming out. And then, we have our first scouting meeting to make our first board. The first board for 2026 isn't far off now, too. So that is very exciting. And there's going to be just like spicy takes, because early on in the season you can basically say anything you want and then just walk it back in June. So yeah, get ready for some spice there on that opening season board.
Hey, I like seeing spice. I like a little bit of spice,
Mm.
and I think this year's draft is going to be a ton of fun to track. Really looking forward to it. We're going to talk a lot more about the draft class here in the coming weeks on this podcast as we get closer to that season. We'll talk a lot about it probably even next week and the week after as junior hockey seasons really get underway. But man, on FloHockey, get that annual subscription right now, because you are going to be able to get the OHL, the QMJHL, the AHL, the ECHL, the USHL, Atlantic Hockey. I mean, I keep this, the SHL. You go on and on and on and on and on. I can rattle off 40 different leagues and more than 20,000 hockey games this year. The best value is in getting the annual subscription. Pay that fee up front. Get 7 months. Like, it's basically, you get 7 months free practically if you pay it all up front there. And then you get all that hockey that I just mentioned, every single game, live and on demand. That's where it's at. We'll also have a ton of content supporting those leagues and also the NHL draft, the World Juniors, all that stuff. FloHockey is we're doing some things. We're doing some things, and it's great that we're able to do this podcast as well, Cam. It has been fun. I liked our called up challenge today. I feel like the smartest
Yes, sir.
man, maybe the smartest I've ever felt in doing that, because I felt pretty embarrassed of the other times. And you know what? We also got a birthday here. Our producer today is Ever. He is turning I believe he said 28 years
28.
old, which I have
Just a
been
pup.
28 for the last 20 years. So it has been quite the run. But Ever, thanks for chiming in with us on your birthday, and thanks to all of you for watching us here on Called Up the Prospects podcast. We're having a ton of fun, and we are only just getting started. Make sure you leave a kind rating and review on your podcast app of choice. Make sure to click that like button and subscribe to the FloHockey YouTube channel so you can never miss an episode of this podcast. We got a lot more coming. The season is almost here. Lots more hockey to talk about it. That's going to do it for this week's episode. For my pal Cam Robinson, I'm Chris Peters. We'll see you next time.